Wow, what a day for me to skip out on talking about Israel, just when I thought I was tired of the topic, as I'm sure all of you are. Um, the most embarrassing thing I've seen for Israel yet came to light, and it was this video that the IDF put out after they finally raided Al Shifa Hospital. They've been talking about Al Shifa Hospital being the nexus of evil pretty much since October 7th itself. They've been plotting to take out this hospital, to raid it, to shut it down, and they'd completely cut it off from the rest of Gaza. It was besieged. Anyone who walked outside of the hospital, according to Doctors Without Borders, was getting picked off by snipers. And then they were left there in the parking lot or in the street to bleed out because the paramedics inside the hospital couldn't walk out because then they would be shot too. It's cut off from electricity and fresh water, and so who knows what the state of the babies on in ICU in the incubators are right now. But all of these terrible sacrifices, all of the terrible conditions there, we were told by Israel was because they had to take out this location because this was essentially the Hamas Pentagon. This was their command and control center. Underneath this hospital, they told us they had a sprawling subterranean complex, which they were running the war out of. We were told that this is essentially like, what's that hotel? Like, I think it's up in New Hampshire, the Balmoral, where they built an underground substitute for the White House for the president to go in case of like a nuclear war. That would have where they could have the entire White House staff so that they could continue running the U.S. government in the midst of a nuclear apocalypse, and it was somewhere far removed where no one would suspect it to be. That is what Israel said that Hamas had done. And so they had to go into this hospital. They had to flush everybody out. They had to cut them off so that they could go in and take out the Hamas leadership. Well, what did they find when they raided the hospital? What did this great video from the IDF, which the IDF deleted? They were so embarrassed because of what they had, the content of this video after hyping this up for over a month. They found approximately 7 AKs in duffel bags or stashed away in closets somewhere, some ammo, and a laptop in a hospital. Somebody's laptop. We don't know the contents of that laptop. Even the IDF said, well, we haven't had time to review this yet, but we found a laptop. And this must be the Hamas, central mainframe with all of their secrets, even though the laptop was open and it appeared to have a picture of a smiling IDF soldier. That doesn't necessarily mean that this laptop was owned by someone from the IDF, but it's a weird thing to have open. I mean, perhaps this was someone who you could say, well, if this was a Hamas laptop, very incriminating, a Hamas laptop, perhaps this picture was of someone that they wanted to target for like a political assassination. I don't know. And then you had 7 AK underfolders in duffel bags. Could you imagine raiding the Pentagon in the United States? Some foreign government comes in. Let's say the Canadians invaded, just like back in 1812. And they go, you know what, we have to take out the Pentagon. This is where the U.S. is running the war from. We have to stop the resistance. And so we have to go in and shut down the Pentagon. And all they found in there was 1 laptop and 7 M16s. The whole that's the totality of U.S. Military headquarters, world headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. They're armed with 7 rifles, and they organize all of their operations with 1 laptop. Oh, and in case you were wondering about that subterranean complex all the tunnels they always talk about, the underground bomb shelter, Pentagon, defense ministry, whatever, under the hospital. Yeah, they didn't show any of that. Doesn't appear to exist. They were just walking around the hospital hallways and saying, look, we found a gun, a lone gun in this closet. In a massive hospital that has thousands of people in it, they found 7 rifles scattered about that, based on where they found them, my guess is that these were probably fighters who had been injured, who were brought into the hospital for treatment. And because they were injured, the hospital staff probably just took their guns and their gear and whatever the heavy stuff they had on their body and just sort of threw it in a corner or threw it in a closet, get out of the way so that they could, operate on them if they were wounded. And then you have the IDF coming in and trying to act like, oh, look at this. This was a big weapons stockpile. This was an armory. That's what they were using this hospital for. So just as I said about the bombing of that one hospital that the Hamas folks said had been hit by a bunker buster and 500 people had been killed in a single airstrike because a bunker buster hit a hospital and they just leveled the building. And then we saw the footage or the pictures the next day, and it looked like it essentially looked like someone threw a grenade in the middle of a parking lot. It was probably, maybe mortar-sized, kind of small, not a very heavy bomb, maybe like RPG-sized, and it blew out some windows. After that, I said, oh, look, they just lied about that. They made it up. Don't they look ridiculous? Isn't it stupid? Why would you make up something that blatantly false, Hamas, when everyone's going to see that you were lying in less than 24 hours once the sun rises and we can see the aftermath? Well, Israel essentially did the same thing, but they did it out over like a month and a half of telling us that Shifa Hospital was this, this great Hamas headquarters. And now they finally went in, they raided the place. I'm just going to link to the Zero Hedge article because they also link to the Al Jazeera article, which alleges that 22 people in the ICU have died since the Israeli takeover. Because even though Israel controls the hospital now, there's still no electricity. And it's pretty difficult, I would think, to keep a lot of these critically injured people alive. And this all comes within a day or so of one of the deputy speakers of the Israeli Knesset, which is Israel's parliament, coming out and saying that we are being far too humane. We're way too worried about civilian life in Gaza. He thinks that Israel is just way too conservative when it comes to avoiding civilian casualties. He thinks that Israel needs to ramp things up and burn Gaza now, no less. Those were his words via Google Translate on Twitter. Now, this guy's not the end-all be-all. I had to do quite a bit of digging to figure out what the deputy speaker of the Knesset even means, because I'm like, well, wait, by deputy, do they mean, is this like France where they call, their members of parliament deputies? I think that's what they call them in France, like a deputy to the National Assembly. No, it is a little higher than that. He's not just a random guy in the Knesset. He is a part of the leadership, because he's a part of the Likud party, but a deputy speaker is a part of the Speaker of the Knesset's team, and the Speaker of the Knesset is kind of like the Speaker of the House here in the U.S. They set the agenda for what the Knesset's going to vote on and all that. So this guy is a person of influence. He's not, a nobody within the Israeli Knesset. He helps dictate what the agenda of the legislature is going to be. So it sounds like he's a fairly prominent legislator in Israel. And so I think it's probably safe to say this is not a super fringe opinion. This is probably reflective of what a lot of people in Israel think, particularly supporters of the Likud government. So with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.